Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Generation Y Conservative Podcast. I am your host, Chris. Tonight, we're going to be talking about some things in entertainment, including Chris Pratt being attacked by a entertainment publication because of some of the things that he has come out and said. Also, we're going to be talking about some gun stories, including one man who shot an intruder at the door, a special gun that's coming out, a woman that traded in her guns because of a gun buyback law, and what she actually did with that money. We're also going to be talking about the cake case, the Masterpiece Cake baker who was in front of the Supreme Court for not baking a cake for a gay wedding. He's back in the news, as is another related story. Then when we go over to politics tonight, we're going to be talking about Trump and the wall and the government shutdown, things that Rand Paul has said in regards to overspending by the government and where your money's actually going, so you know it. And as a special thing tonight, we've been spotlighting some of the guns over the past couple of weeks from Relic Hunter Firearms. We did the MPX 2 weeks ago. We did the Glock 19X by the page only. If you didn't catch that, you can actually go to the Generation Y Conservative page and see that. And then this week, we're going to be going over a very special gun. We're actually getting to the next 2 weeks. We'll have two guns that I really enjoyed shooting. So we'll talk about that as well. In the meantime, buckle up. This is the Generation Y Conservative Podcast. All right, I want to thank everyone for tuning in tonight. If you're watching right now, you are watching on Facebook Live. I thank you for that. If you are tuned in, you can always get involved with the comments section down there. And if you are tuned in live, I will answer questions and comments and try to throw in some things as well if you're pointing them out. Head over to the Generation Y Conservative Facebook page and hit like and get notifications. That way you know when we go live with the video stream. Also, if you're interested, at the bottom of the screen there, you can actually see the Twitter handle for me, which is @GenYConservative without the E on the end. You could always get involved on there and comment as well to some of the stories I'm posting on there and Facebook. Also, the past week, I've actually been spotlighting an MPX giveaway by Classic Firearms. That's not a scam. You can actually go and click the links that I provided there and find that contest and actually tune in and try to win the gun. It's an MPX. It's one of the first guns that we actually reviewed on the Generation Y Conservative, and it's a blast to shoot. Just be sure to get that red dot sight when you get it then, which is not included with it, unfortunately. Also, head over to the YouTube channel where you can actually subscribe for the podcast, those gun videos from Relic Hunter Firearms, and movie reviews as well. And we'll be throwing up different things on there as we do them coming up. We might be doing some different things, most likely when it comes to the summertime. I have a couple things planned, kind of like we did with the Relic Hunter videos. Also, if you're interested in the audio-only portion of the podcast, you can actually tune into that on Sundays from 3 to 6 p.m. on KLRN Internet Radio, where you can actually listen to it there again, or after they get done with that on Sundays. On Mondays, they typically move that podcast over to iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, and Spreaker as well. So you can go basically anywhere you get a podcast and subscribe to it, and actually go there and subscribe to the podcast, which would be great. And as always, with this video stream and everything else, be sure to hit like and share on the video and the podcast itself so that you can get more like-minded conservatives involved and piss off some liberal friends as well in the meantime. Okay, so one of the things that we're doing tonight, starting off here with, is Chris Pratt. We're going to start off in the entertainment as we typically do. Last podcast, we actually started with the Avengers trailer, so this guy is in the Avengers. This is a headline according to Chicks on the Right, but it is all over the place. It says, Chris Pratt is problematic now, and guess why? They said that Chris Pratt is very, very open about his Christian faith, so how long would it be until Hollywood started turning against him? My bet was his days were numbered. So this is according to TV Guide. They actually sent out a tweet that said, how to love Chris Pratt without hating yourself. So it says the headline is misleading. This isn't about how to love Chris Pratt. This is all about the reasons why you should hate him. As the URL gives it away, it's the whole tvguide.com/news/Chris Pratt problematic. And here's just a little taste of what they actually said in the article. It says, adding fuel to this particular fire is the fact that Pratt, an avid hunter who has often spoken about his love of hunting, currently raises lamb on his farm. What a bastard. The enthusiastic Tony took when speaking about eating fresh farm-to-table lamb in an Instagram video earlier this year. He also, in quotes here, says, they are the happiest lambs on the planet. They are so sweet. And then one day they wake up dead and they're in my freezer. So that sparked a backlash from a number of fans, and not just those who are vegetarians or vegans. The next day, Pratt posted a photo of several pieces of fresh lamb meat and even compared said lamb's death to something as easy or trivial as unplugging a TV. How dare he? How dare he actually kill and eat the food himself? Someone tweeted out against this here, against TV Guide. They said, the listed problems, seriously, he gave a cat away once. He hunts for food and raises food on his farm. He mocked outrage culture, and he offended the hearing impaired by using turn up the volume, don't just read the subtitles as a metaphor. Way worse than Polanski, who was obviously a Hollywood person who was raping kids and underage people. So Hollywood never stands up against those of their own, like Meryl Streep and the rest of them, who don't stand up against their own people typically, unless it hits the news hard enough, like Harvey Weinstein. But Chris Pratt is obviously, we've talked about this over the last couple of weeks, he's one of my favorite actors in Hollywood right now because he's so open about his Christian faith. He actually was in Disneyland in California, and for their Christmas special, read from the Bible in regards to the birth of Jesus out there. So that was really cool. And he's open about raising his own food and hunting and stuff like that. He's shown pictures of raising crosses on his property for Easter, which was really neat. And typically he doesn't get into politics, which is actually kind of what I want from my actors. I don't need to hear their political leanings. Taylor Swift this year came out in regards to one of the senators, I think it was, or representatives in her state in Kentucky there, and went against her. I think it was Marsha Blackburn, if I'm not mistaken. And people have been begging her for years to get politically involved in everything so they could see where she stands so that they can stand with her. She went against this representative, and it turned out that that representative actually ended up winning because of the backlash against Taylor Swift for it. So Taylor Swift should have kept on doing what she's been doing this whole time and staying out of politics, which is one of the reasons why she had such a big fan base on both sides of the issue. But when you hang out with Lena Dunham as one of your friends, eventually something's going to slip up there, I would imagine. How about this one? Speaking of the Avengers and everything, this is an article from comicbook.com. It says, Forever 21 upsets fans after using a white model to promote a Black Panther Christmas sweater. So not only is it a white model, this is an albino model who surprisingly actually has dark eyebrows. But beyond that, the tweet itself has a picture of this guy who is almost blending in with the white background. He's so white. And it says, Wakanda forever, get the sweater here. And people started flipping out about this. Let me see if I have some tweets here. Yeah. But they got the whitest kid you know wearing the sweater. You may want to rethink this one, said another one. See what when they Cap and Bucky in a purple dude wipe out half the universe. Yeah, maybe they should learn how to spell. Hey, Forever 21, in what universe did you think it was okay to feature a white model in Wakanda gear? Granted, chances are you knew it wasn't okay, but still, as a former #21men brand specialist for the company, I'm highly offended. So Mark Paul, this guy on here, at Who Is Mark Paul, was a representative, a former brand specialist for Forever 21, is upset. Let's go over his tweet again one more time here. In what universe did you think it was okay to feature a white model in Wakanda gear? So let's dissect that for a second here. In what universe did you think it would be okay to feature a white model to represent a fake nation? is basically what they're saying there. So Wakanda is a fake nation, and not only that, how many times have we seen stories in the past where people in the minority communities get upset when things like this happen, where there's white models showing either a costume that's representative of a black character or something like that, or in this case a sweater. But it's perfectly fine and everything when you have those kids dressing up as Captain America or anything like that, and any of the white superheroes, because they go into this diatribe about how there's not enough black superheroes to look up to and everything. My personal feeling on it is, who the heck cares? It's a costume, for crying out loud. These are characters that these kids are looking up to and want to represent, in this case, a Christmas sweater, or most of the times Halloween costumes. And these are just that. They're doing fantasy type things and enjoying it, enjoying the character. And for the most part, barring anything that I've seen so far, it's in tribute to the character. It's not making fun of the character at all or anything. It's actually because they love that character. So I don't know how many times we got to go over these types of things, especially in regards to Halloween costumes, but now a white model can't even represent a fake nation sweatshirt for Christmas. All right, one of the stories that we actually went over a couple weeks ago now was a boy who was being bullied. Let's see here. Yeah, he's 11 years old, and he changed his last name was Trump. And all the kids were bullying him. And we actually went into a long thing about how the reason why this kid would be bullied for his last name being Trump has nothing to do with your average kid that's a bully at all. You know, kids are bullies. You're not going to get rid of that. That's a human characteristic that is just unfortunate. That happens all the time, right? But in this case, what we have is kids that are bullying this boy because of his last name being Trump. And the reason why they're bullying him is because of what they're hearing on the news, with the news always bashing Trump because they have an agenda against him. They're going home, they're hearing their parents bashing Trump. Their super tolerant liberal parents are at home saying the worst, most horrendous, vile things about the president. And then no matter where they turn, that's all they're hearing, you know? And in this case, what ended up happening is now we have a follow-up story to this. And the headline on Good Morning America is, "Boy who changed his name from Trump honored by anti-bullying organization." Digest that for a second, okay? The boy changed his last name and gets honored for changing his last name and cowtailing to the bullies. Okay, so the bullies won out in this situation. So while the left is standing there or sitting there behind their computers in their basement of their mom's house and everything, typing away on Twitter anonymously, saying that Trump is a bully, what they do is they honor a bunch of bullies that went and bullied a kid and got him to change his name. And that's perfectly acceptable. That's a good thing that happened there, right? So let's read a little bit about this here. Like I said, according to Good Morning America, the 11-year-old boy who changed his last name from Trump after he was bullied at school was recognized over the weekend by an anti-bullying organization for his courage. Philadelphia-based nonprofit Teach Anti-Bullying honored Joshua Berto with the National Anti-Bullying Medal of Courage on Saturday for his, quote, bravery to stand tall to bullying in his school community. How the hell does that make any sense? He stood tall to bullying? No, he caved into the bullying in this case and actually ended up as an 11-year-old boy changing his last name because of what the bullies were doing to him in his school. The bullies won out in this case, and this kid gets honored for changing his name. How sick is that? Joshua, who lives in Clayton, Delaware, began going by his father's last name rather than his mother's due to the relentless bullying he experienced after President Donald Trump began campaigning in the 2016 presidential election. The bullying started 2 years ago when Joshua was enrolled at Claymont Elementary School, according to the Delaware News Journal. His father, Bobby Berto, then pulled him out of school and homeschooled him for a year. The right thing to do, first of all, okay? According to ABC Philadelphia station WPVI. Joshua's mother, Megan Trump, who is not related to the president, told WPVI that other kids would curse at her son, calling him stupid and an idiot. He hated his last name and felt sad all the time, his parents told the station. The bullying got so bad, the school district agreed to change Joshua's name in the system when he began at Tally Middle School in the fall. In addition, many students who participated in the bullying have since apologized to him, according to the local station. Yeah, because they won out and they were spotlighted for it. While Joshua's story is tragic, it provides greater awareness to many, said Dr. Claudio Cirillo, founder of Teach Anti-Bullying. This little boy has been victim to relentless bullying simply over his last name that is associated with our 45th president of the United States, the organization wrote on Facebook after the ceremony. Glad we could bring a smile back to his wonderful face. Yeah, all right. So, again, what happened here is the bullies won out. Right? Instead of going as a school to the parents of these little snots that, you know, let's face it, I was just going to say going to the parents of these bullies and having them teach their kids a lesson not to be little snot-nosed a-holes to kids in school when they don't know what the hell they're talking about, especially when you're an 11-year-old and you're talking about politics and they don't have no clue what they're talking about except for what their parents are sniveling about. But if you go to those liberal parents, they're just going to go, oh, yeah, we'll talk to our son. He's supposed to be very tolerant. We're liberals. We're the most tolerant people out there. And then as soon as they close the door, get off the phone with the principal, they would go, good job, little Billy. Good job that you bullied this kid into submission over his last name because you disagree with a president in office that has nothing to do with the kid. Congratulations, liberal bullying won. All right, score one up for the liberals on the bullying side of intolerance. So I don't have a scoreboard, but it would be overloaded right now. All right, as we go on here, let's stick with some educational type stuff. How about this one? Sticking along the same lines here. According to BuzzFeed, the bastion of great news, a college student was told to remove a F Nazi sign because it wasn't inclusive. Now, that's the article headline on BuzzFeed because they want to upset a bunch of their readers that don't do any research and don't do any common sense thinking at all to dig deeper into why exactly would it be wrong on for free speech on these campuses that typically don't even allow conservatives free speech, right? To have an F Nazi sign up in their window. That doesn't make any sense. Well, yeah. Well, here's the reason why. Nicole Parsons said she was fed up with her university's silence over a string of hate crimes on campus when she put up a sign in her dorm window that read, F Nazis, you are not welcome here. Okay. Parsons, a junior at the University of Massachusetts, there you go. Don't let my wife and in-laws know they're Massachusetts liberals up there. not my family, but but Massachusetts is a liberal state. So junior University of Massachusetts Amherst told BuzzFeed News on Sunday that she decided to put up a sign after a swastika was drawn over a Happy Hanukkah sign on a resident assistant's door the first week of December. She said, I thought maybe if I hang the sign up, maybe the person who drew the swastikas will see it and see someone condemning their actions, even if the administration doesn't do it. Okay, the university's highly promoted initiative on campus is called Hate Has No Home at UMass, aimed at rejecting all forms of bigotry and hatred. As part of its initiative, the university has documented 19 hate crime incidents on campus since September. It would be interesting to see what they labeled as hate crimes, because I can guarantee you it isn't against conservatives, probably. But a week after posting a sign on her dorm window, she received an email from a resident director asking her to remove the sign over issues of inclusion. That's what's in parentheses there, but that is not what I'm gathering from this at all. So it says, "Hello, Nicole. My name is Eddie Papazzoni, and I am one of the residence directors at UMass Amherst and currently the RD on call for Eastside. I have tried to contact you on your phone around 4:15 p.m., but the number listed was for your home phone, and I was unable to leave a message on that machine. With that being said, I am emailing you today in regards to a phone call I received concerning a sign that is placed in your window. From the conversation, it appears to be that the sign in mention can be paraphrased as Nazis are not welcome here. Though the sign is permitted under freedom of speech, I would also like to discuss the impact on the community that the sign has had. There are some in the community who have expressed that the sign should be taken down, and it has created mixed emotions in the community on how to proceed, issues of inclusion, and the ability to be active members of their community. While residents' education cannot force you or your roommate to take the sign down, I am asking that you or your roommate take the sign down so that all students can be a part of an inclusive residential experience, as well as having a respect environment to be a part of here on our campus." Environment to be a part of here on our campus. So obviously, when you go to a prestigious college like UMass, some of those spelling and grammar errors come out. So this is what her response to this was. "I was in absolute shock. This email tells me that the university cares more about the feelings of Nazis than the safety of their own students." So let's talking about this for a second here. So UMass writes this email to this girl who has a sign in her window that, again, let's go over it one more time. F Nazis, with the word actually spelled out, "You are not welcome here." And as James, I believe it was on my post, put, there's no commas in there, so or hyphens or anything like that. So it's all one streamlined sentence altogether. So they don't know if they're talking about F Nazis, like as one noun, or a plural noun, I guess you could say. You are not welcome here, or F Nazis, comma, you are not welcome here. So there's a bunch of different ways that you can read this. But the fact is, she thinks that this is a matter for the university in regards to inclusion on campus, which is briefly mentioned in this letter from the campus, our resident director or whatever the heck he was. But she also said that the university seems to care more about the feelings of Nazis than the safety of actual students. Again, let's take a closer look at what this sign actually is. You're plastering up in a higher education university setting in the window for a bunch of people to see profanity. Okay? And I know at this point in time in our society and everything, profanities are thrown around left and right, willy-nilly, as far as how anybody uses them in everyday language. Some people are very streamlined with it and can say it every other word and make a sentence make sense with something like that. But in this case, you're saying the F word right up in your window, no matter what follows that, okay? You are on a higher education campus representing them as a student, and things like this are going to make the rounds on the internet, obviously, in today's day and age, okay? I would imagine very quickly it made the rounds on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and everything else for both support and being against it and everything. And, of course, they probably tagged it for UMass as well. So do you think really a college campus or university campus would actually want themselves associated with a student that is vulgar and putting things up so publicly in their window? Who cares about what the rest of the message is, right? Let's take that apart for a second too. F Nazis. I completely agree with you. Whatever your name is here. Parsons, okay? Parsons, I agree with you. F Nazis, okay? I am right there with you. I'll wave that banner with you. But what you consider Nazis are probably not necessarily what we would consider in the historical context of what a Nazi actually is. Because your side and those that support you, especially from news organizations like BuzzFeed, would label anything right of center or even slightly left of center to be Nazi-ish, right? Forget the fact that Nazi actually stands for the National Socialist Party. And when you actually look at things like what happened in Charlottesville with the white nationalists that showed up there and fought against the Antifa people and everything over the statues and ended up with that one girl unfortunately getting run over. It was a sad incident and everything. But those white supremacists that showed up there, those white nationalists that showed up there, was basically a majority representation of that group in the United States. All right, most of them traveled all over the country to get there to form that little group. It's a very small percentage of our actual culture and has no representation to any other group on the right. Okay, no one on the right is going to claim any allegiance to the white supremacists at all, because they're a bunch of idiots. All right. They're just as much idiots as the Antifa people as well. But when you actually take apart and dissect what white nationalists and white supremacists stand for, first of all, in regards to the Nazi, National Socialist Party, we went over that. When you look at the stances and policies of white nationalists and everything, those that showed up in Charlottesville, what they are advocating for is a strong, powerful, large, centralized government that's in control, that can pass policies, sweeping policies, over the rest of the country in regards to the types of policies that they want to line up. Okay? That is completely opposite of what conservatives believe in. Conservatives, libertarians, and even anarchists, for crying out loud, believe in small to non-existent government. Now, personally, I don't believe in non-existent government. It does hold its benefits for military and protecting the citizens and our borders and everything, and taxes for the roads and stuff like that. I get that stuff, okay? So I do believe that there is a purpose for government. But we as conservatives try to keep it as small as possible. White supremacists want to build up a large centralized government that's in control of everything and can squash people with their thumb in regards to forcing them to follow their policies. Kind of sounds familiar. Sounds like what the Antifa people actually believe in, minus the racism part. Except they use a similar type of language to push their policies that include the LGBT agenda and everything. Hey, Mary. Actually, that might be her husband, so I'm not really sure. So, Rogers, nice to see you guys there. Again, like the Rogers are doing right now, if you want to join in on the comments, you certainly can. And get in on the comments and say what you're feeling about these topics as well. So in regards to what's going on here, white nationalists, white supremacists, the whole Charlottesville thing, that has been blown up for quite a while. They do not represent the right at all. And in regards to something like this on BuzzFeed, where this girl is getting in trouble, or not even in trouble, they said we can't do anything because of freedom of speech. We can't require you to take down this sign that's in your window right now, but it would be beneficial for the inclusiveness of all people. Why is that? Again, let's take apart that. There's so many different layers to this stupid BuzzFeed onion and Parsons here because they can't get it through their heads. If you actually go to the article on BuzzFeed on Facebook and look through the comments, you're gonna have a hard time finding any common sense from the people that actually read the article or those that just went off of the headline alone, which is a problem on both sides of the aisle when it comes to news articles, right? You have people that read the article headline and post their comments without actually reading through this. But in regards to this, it says a college student was told to remove a F Nazi sign because it wasn't inclusive. Is that really what they said? No. They said it's up to you, but we try to have an inclusive nature here, and it's inappropriate on campus. That's what I got from the letter, okay? So at no point in time when I was reading through and scrolling through these article comments on BuzzFeed Facebook, the Facebook post there, did I see anyone with common sense in regards to this that said, you know what, maybe it has to do with this girl Parsons' vulgar language being so projected out into the environment that maybe, just maybe, the university thought that's not really appropriate here on campus, and we don't really want that representing our student body. Because when it comes to inclusiveness, okay, if you want to go off of that word that was played there, how about you think as a university, or think of yourself in the university's position about how something like this looks to both incoming students and future students down the line, okay? Now, students that use vulgar language like this all the time, so loosely, may not have a problem necessarily with this if they're looking to go to UMass in the future. But I can tell you right now that if their parents, who by the day are getting to be deeper and deeper into the generation that is tech savvy and can find this stuff on the computer when they're looking into colleges with their students, will come across something like this and say, yeah, you know what? I don't really want my son or daughter, or whatever they identify as that day, to go to a college where this type of vulgarity is thrown around. And if this is just the surface of the issues, I can just gather what the duck's feet are doing under the pond, if these are the ripples on the top level of the pond right now, right? So if this is the type of student body that you're promoting and you're accepting on your campus, then I don't want my kids going there, okay? So as a university person, if you're putting yourself into their shoes, you're thinking financially, I can't afford to turn off too many students because we can only approve so many to go here a year, and we can't have this kind of representation out there that pushes people away to our closest rival, where people would go that offer the same type of classes that we do when they're weighing their choices, right? So it doesn't make any sense. So I completely agree with UMass in this situation. I disagree with BuzzFeed News. I disagree with Parsons, who, by the way, was planning on moving off campus anyway when this happened, and I guess her roommate was a little upset with her putting on the sign up there from last I read here. But it's just asinine that BuzzFeed, their followers, and everyone else think that this has to do more with inclusiveness and hurting the feelings of Nazis than the safety of students. In my mind, if you want to take it a step further, I think they really are concerned about the safety of students, because they don't want to project any type of hatred on both sides that would push away any students or cause any type of warring mentality on ideology or anything like that. Doesn't make any sense. I don't think you want to promote that on either side of the aisle. This is according to the Blaze. It says a homeowner, the headline is, homeowner shoots man 3 times at front door after smartphone app said someone was trying to enter. That's a shame. I mean, when you think about it, only 3 times? That's underwhelming. So it says a Fort Worth, Texas homeowner. Why? First of all, okay, let's go over this real quick. Why is anyone in Texas trying to break into a home? Your chances of breaking into a home that has firearms in it and an owner willing to use them are astronomically higher, okay? A Fort Worth, Texas homeowner was having a cigarette in his garage after midnight on Wednesday when his smartphone app told him someone was trying to open his front door. So the homeowner didn't hesitate. He grabbed his gun and fired through the front door, the station said, adding that police indicated the man outside was shot 3 times in the neck, wrist, and arm. The man was taken to a hospital and is expected to survive, according to KDFW. See, you don't draw and shoot unless, 1, there's definitely a reason, and 2, you're willing to go all the way and kill the guy. Because here's my fear. I'll be honest with you. I don't ever want to have to be in a situation where I actually shoot someone, okay? You're going to see in the video later on at Relic Hunter Firing Line, when we're actually showing the gun, firearm that we're showcasing tonight, that I'm a good shot. Like, we clustered them on the head of the target out there. But I never want to be in a situation where I actually have to shoot someone. I think that if you end up in that position, you end up living with something that you don't ever want to have to deal with. That being said, I will not ever hesitate to deal with that emotion if it comes to the safety of myself or my family. You're damn right I'm going to be shooting away, okay? And if I shoot to kill. And here's the reason why. This guy was shot in the neck, the wrist, and the arm. The chances that this guy eventually gets out within your lifetime are pretty high. And I'm guessing someone like that, in most cases, is going to be pissed off that they were shot, and pissed off that they were arrested, pissed off that they served time, and there's a high likelihood chance that they're going to come back and try to take it out on you. So my personal feeling on the matter is, if you're going to take a shot, take the shot. And what I mean by the shot is the ending shot, as far as I'm concerned. Police don't expect to file charges against the homeowner, according to the station. You don't want someone entering your home. You have the right to protect your home, right to protect your family. This being said, it's the holiday season, seeing a lot of different crimes coming up. We ask that everyone be vigilant, watch your surroundings, look out for your neighbors, according to the Fort Worth Police Department's Tracy Carter. So that was not one holiday season gift that guy was willing or prepared to get. But yeah, so let's move on here. Let's go to another homeowner. This is according to the Western Journal. A woman turns in her gun at a Baltimore gun buyback. Okay, and while most people are turning in their guns because of the buyback laws, so you could get money if you were afraid that you weren't going to get anything for it and that they were just going to be seized. In this case, let's finish off the headline. Woman turns in gun at Baltimore gun buyback so she can go out and buy a bigger gun. Oh, I love her already. Gun buybacks aim to remove deadly firearms from the street by offering people cold hard cash. The programs work to keep guns from being used in crimes by taking them out of circulation entirely. At least that's what the municipalities and police who run them say. The reality is much different. The only people flocking to turn in their weapons appear to be law-abiding citizens, eager for some easy money, and taxpayers are footing the bill. One woman, she discovered she could use a gun buyback to score big, turning in her 9mm pistol to buy something with a little more firepower. In a tweet by local journalist Kathleen Cairns, the pro-gun woman displays the pistol inside of a box. So this woman tweeted out a picture of her, and she said, one woman shows us the 9mm she is turning in for the Baltimore City gun buyback program, but she says she is going to use the cash for a bigger weapon. So they actually ran the story on Fox 45 then. It says some smaller pistols sell at comparatively cheap prices, meaning this woman may end up actually making money. So, interesting. It says, as Fox 45 Baltimore reports, police offered $200 for semi-automatic weapons, including pistols. Yeah, she might have made some money on that one, actually. Manufacturers like the infamous High Point often sell brand new pistols for less than $200. At pawn shops and through private sales, the price for these can hover around $100 or the $100 mark. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to crunch these numbers. Police are also offering $25 for any magazine with a capacity over 10 rounds. As a lot of people like to say, I lost all of those and all my firearms in a tragic boating accident, so I wouldn't know what to turn in. Considering many of these retail online for less than $5, so $25 for what would go for $5. And who's paying for this in the end, right? So in this case, can you really blame a woman for thinking this through and actually making money on this for getting a bigger weapon and everything? Everything she's doing actually financially makes a lot of sense. But in the end, what really sucks about this is that what she's being paid with is taxpayer money. So it's the city using the taxpayer money to pay for these things that they then use to go out and buy another bigger gun anyway, right? So that doesn't make any sense. But all the best to her for finding a better firearm than she's actually looking for. Let's see what we got here. Okay. Now, if she is looking for something better, I have an idea for her. I have an idea for that homeowner that was protecting his home as well. It says here, according to AmericanGG.net, Gilboa Snake Double Barrel AR-15 enters full production for U.S. availability. The AR-15. The AR-15 is probably the most demonized weapon in the United States right now, something that Congress and anti-gun people have been advocating against to get off the streets as much as possible, right? Despite the fact that most of the crimes that are committed with guns in mass shootings and everywhere else typically end up being pistols, right? In this case, it's always the AR-15, which, again, we've talked about this before. Actually, you can actually go back and look at one of our videos that we put together. I think it was an hour-long presentation on the Second Amendment and what goes into it and what they're fighting against, and it was called Hot Topics, Gun Control, I think that's what it was, or something like that. But you can go on our YouTube channel and actually find that. But a lot of people on the left, or those that don't know anything about guns, seem to think that AR in the AR-15 stands for assault rifle. They can't even define what an assault rifle is because there is no such thing as an assault rifle. They do just as much damage as any other firearm, right? If anything's used against another person, it's an assault weapon, right? So if I throw a Christmas ornament at you, it's an assault Christmas ornament. It stands for Armalite 15, which is one of the actual rifles that was used as far as the blueprint designs and everything, made by Armalite and actually contracted for military use eventually, but with different features, obviously, to the rifle as well. But in this case here, this thing is pretty badass. This is what I got to tell you about this. It's double-barreled, double magazine fed, and it looks stunning. Okay, especially dressed in black or red. Okay. So it says that Gilboa has announced that they will start full production of the double-barreled AR-15 called the Snake. So write that down, okay? Write down the Snake. Here in the United States. This rifle was developed in Israel as part of the series of AR variants under the brand name Gilboa. When a pair of 16-inch barrels are attached, this twin-trigger rifle is legal for civilian use without a tax stamp. I'm personally gonna be looking into this, to be honest with you. Except my next purchase was probably gonna be the Mossberg Shockwave, because I just wanted a really cool little shotgun to use. So really don't come to my door. Okay, the Gilboa Snake background says Gilboa Snake rifle is built by the Israeli weapons manufacturer Silver Shadow, which is an awesome name for a company. It is available as a semi-automatic civilian rifle and a selective fire model for military and law enforcement. The selective fire variant has a pair of barrels connected to two gas blocks with two separate gas impingement systems. The civilian variant features a pair of separate and independent gas blocks and tubes. The double trigger configuration avoids the ATF's definition of a machine gun as a firearm that fires multiple rounds with a single trigger pull. Instead, a separate trigger is required to fire each barrel, just like a double-barreled shotgun. The select fire version, however, features a single trigger. Okay. So, you need to configure your finger back and forth to really get that motion going. I don't know why I'm doing this, but get that motion going back and forth for firing, you know, as fast as you can and everything. I don't know if they I guess bump stocks are considered illegal now, but you know, whatever. I guess it would be a little harder for these anyway with the double trigger. Both versions feature separate ejection ports that eject spent brass to both the right and left sides of the rifle. Man, this thing is so BA. In both variants, two separate magazines of a magazine coupler feed below the rifle. 3 Picatinny or key mod rails can support a variety of optics and other accessories above and around the twin barrels. Gilboa has built various prototypes with barrel lengths ranging from 9.5 inches to 16 inches. Each version has included ambidextrous controls and standard AR parts. So it fires a 223, 5.56. Weight is about 10 pounds, 13 ounces. That's not too bad. As I said, barrel length is 9.5, 11.5, or 16. Here we go. Here's where the tires hit the road. The MSRP right now is about $2,400. So I need to start saving. That's what that's saying. I need to start saving for it. Okay, what we start off with in the podcast today, we were actually talking about how one of the topics that keeps on coming back up over the past couple of years has been this whole Christian Baker thing in front of the Supreme Court, where they refused to bake a gay wedding cake. And eventually that made its way all the way up the court system to the Supreme Court, and the guy won. Okay, and I believe that was in Colorado. Yeah, Colorado baker Jack Phillips. So he's back in the news again now. And it says that it says Christian baker who refused to bake a gay wedding cake is back in court over a transition day cake. A transgender lawyer claims Jack Phillips discriminated against her. So Jack Phillips, who gained global attention for refusing to bake a cake for a gay couple's wedding, was back in court earlier this week, according to the Associated Press. Christian Baker and his lawyers are fighting back against allegations that he discriminated against transgender lawyer Autumn Scardina when he denied her request for a transition day cake. At this point, he's just a guy who is trying to get back to life. The problem is the state of Colorado won't let him, according to Jim Campbell, an attorney for the Alliance Defending Freedom, great organization if you ever wanted to support anyone, is what he told the AP on Tuesday's hearing. The Alliance Defending Freedom is a Christian nonprofit law firm that's representing Phillips right now. In August, Phillips' lawyers filed the lawsuit against Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper's administration, the Division of Civil Rights, and the Colorado Civil Rights Commission for unconstitutional bullying, according to the report. Phillips is seeking $100,000 in punitive damages from Aubrey Elenis, director of the Colorado Civil Rights Division, and the Colorado Anti-Discrimination Act prohibits discrimination based on sexual orientation by any place of business engaged in sales to the public. So it says, last summer, Scardina called the bakery and asked for a cake that was pink on the inside and blue on the outside to celebrate the 7th anniversary of her gender transition. Scardina's request was made on June 26th of 2017, the same day that the Supreme Court agreed to hear Phillips' case involving his refusal to bake a wedding cake for Charlie Craig and Dave Mullins in 2012. On June 28th, less than a month after the Supreme Court had ruled 7-2 in Phillips's favor, Scardina filed a complaint with the Colorado Civil Rights Commission, citing she was discriminated against for being transgender. The Supreme Court ruled that the Colorado Civil Rights Commission showed anti-religious bias in its sanctions against Phillips for refusing to make the gay couple's cake. So what does the lawsuit claim? It says that the lawsuit claims that Phillips serves everyone, adding that cake artists such as Phillips have the right to decline to make cakes with designs that include messages that conflict with religious beliefs. All people, no matter who they are, what they believe, or what protected characteristics they have, are welcomed by Phillips' shop and may purchase anything available for sale. But as a devout man of faith, Phillips cannot create custom cakes that express messages or celebrate events in conflict with his religious beliefs. So what is this saying? This is something that we've actually talked about quite a few times as well. If there is a cake in this man's bakery that's for sale, he would not discriminate against any gay couple or transgender person on selling them that product if it is in his store, okay? He is not refusing service to anyone. What he is refusing to do is take time to use his creative talents to put to use on a custom designed cake that would go against his religious beliefs. If they bought one that was already pre-made to celebrate their transition day or their gay marriage or anything like that, he would sell it to them, okay? But to spend hours on something and put your heart and soul using your artistic talent into something is ridiculous against anything. You know, so again, it would be the equivalent of someone going to a gay baker and saying that they wanted a wedding cake saying that straight marriage is the only way, right? If that person said that they didn't want to make it, I would agree with that person too. It doesn't matter. To force or compel someone through local, state, or federal level government, compel them to go against what they want to do or their religious beliefs or anything like that is going against the freedom of conscience of a person. And that's something that has been discussed greatly in regarding all these types of cases and everything. So he's been back in court and battling this one now. And the whole thing is, when it comes to this baker, Jack Phillips, I think is his name. Jack Phillips, yeah. So what happened here is this guy went up to the Supreme Court, won in regards to the gay cake and everything like that, and people were upset about it and wanted to fight. These people are not going to be happy until this man's shop is closed down, which is anti-free market stuff, right? That is what happens in socialist countries and communist countries. If you can get the government not to like something, they can squash you, right? What we were talking about, the strong centralized government that white nationalists and supremacists like and everything. If they didn't like a black baker, all right, just because he was black or something, and could compel the government to forcefully shut that man down because he's black, that's what that group would want, right? That's the kind of sick mentality. But it's okay on the left to be doing this against a man that holds religious beliefs, right? They never go after the Muslim bakers that refuse to make anything in regards to something that goes against their religion, because that's not inclusive, right? It's ridiculous to go after them for their religious beliefs, mostly because I think that they're scared to actually do that. They know the repercussions. They know that Christians are soft, easy targets, because the basis, the foundation of Christianity is loving service towards others, love for God and sharing that love and loving your brothers and sisters the same and everything. They know that that's a soft, easy target, because if they go against you, well, you're supposed to show love. How hypocritical of you if you don't, right? But if you go against a Muslim, well, then you're going to have a pretty hardcore backlash by some pretty radical people. In this case, though, they're obviously going to keep on churning this wheel as much as possible, getting people to travel various distances way past any other bakers in the state, maybe even from other states and everything, to go to Jack Phillips, to ask him for his services for customized artistic cakes that go against his religious beliefs, just to continue to be able to present lawsuits against him until he financially can't handle it anymore and has to shut down his business, right? They are not going to be happy until they actually destroy a man's life. That's what this comes down to, okay? And again, with all these stories that we keep on talking about, it is the bullying, right? They give an award to a child for changing his last name from Trump because he was bullied and the bullies won. That's because the liberals have become their own worst enemies, and they don't even realize. They celebrate their bullying now, okay? Bullying is always acceptable now as long as it's in regards to a different think than what they currently hold. Oh yeah, we're completely tolerant as long as you believe exactly what we believe. Why wouldn't we be tolerant to you? It makes no sense, right? So as long as you believe what they believe, then you're going to be okay, which is exactly why socialism and communism, the things that they're pushing for, and this being the last bastion of hope of freedom and everything that's good and holy in this freaking world anymore, for free market and for freedom and liberty and freedom of speech and everything else that goes along with it. We're the last place for that, okay? You can talk about how other countries have different types of freedoms and everything, but you don't have the mix of freedom that actually matters like we do here in the United States. And if we allow these pansies to win and form a strong centralized government that shuts down anything that they disagree with, eventually, once they pick apart the opposition party that they disagree with, okay, and that's squashed out, those people are never happy, okay? We have seen the outrage culture now that they wake up every single day looking for something to be outraged about, from Halloween costumes to Christian bakers to anything that involves Trump, even when he does things that they should be agreeing with, right? How many times have we heard during the Obama administration that the wall is a fantastic thing? The guy deported more illegal aliens than any other president before him combined, and now it's suddenly bad because Trump is doing it, because they don't like Trump. That's all it comes down to, okay? How many times were they pissed off that Bush got us into wars over in the Middle East, but then Obama doubled and tripled down on wars in the Middle East, started them in new countries, and was dropping 20,000 bombs a year on them, and then they're okay with that? Just let that slide and everything. But then when Trump gets into office and he ends a war or talks about ending a war, they're pissed off at him again, right? I mean, at what point do liberals make sense in their hypocritical thinking? It doesn't make any sense ever. They have to be outraged, which leads me to my point. If they squash out the mentality or ideology or anything that they don't want under a socialist type government that they advocate for. Once they squash that out, they are going to continue to look for things to be outraged about. At that point, once they've squashed out that opposition ideology, they start picking apart their own. All right, we've already been starting to see it on the left when Antifa goes against their own and beating the hell out of a Bernie Sanders supporter in the streets and everything. How about how the DNC and Hillary worked together to get her the nomination from the DNC? Look at the superdelegate situation with the Democrat side, that no matter what the American citizens say in the primaries, if you want person A and the superdelegates want person B, you're getting person B as your nominee for the party, okay? So you have no control on the Democratic side. And the sooner the left wakes up and actually starts doing their research and educating themselves on politics and looking into economics and everything, that whole bridge is going to come tumbling down for them. The reason why Bernie Sanders supporters actually started to wake up and get pissed off at Hillary Clinton and the DNC for the actions that they were taking against Bernie, when clearly Bernie was what they considered the better choice. Anyway, I digress. Don't let the left win. That's all I'm trying to tell you. Because then they'll be picking you apart. So we were talking about the Christian Baker, Jack Phillips here and everything. Now we are going to go to similar type story. Same basic premise, right? In regards to the Daily Wire, it says 2 female Christian artists could be jailed for not creating art for a same-sex wedding. Unbelievable. 2 female Christian artists in Arizona who refused to make custom art for same-sex weddings could actually be jailed for sticking to their religious beliefs. Joanna Duca and Brianna Koski, who own Brush and Nib Studio, make custom artwork using painting, calligraphy, and hand lettering. They filed suit against the city of Phoenix as a Phoenix City ordinance threatens them with up to 6 months and or a fine of $2,500 a day for every day that they refuse to make the artwork. The first the women filed in state court to overturn the ordinance, but lost in a court of appeals, prompting them to appeal to the state Supreme Court, which said on November 20th it would hear the case. Guess who's involved again? The good guys. The Alliance Defending Freedom, which represents a woman, asked in their petition, does Phoenix violate the Arizona Constitution's free speech clause when it forces commissioned artists to create custom artwork consisting of words and paintings conveying messages they object to, and when it bans commissioned artists from publishing a statement explaining the artwork they can and cannot create? Does Phoenix violate Arizona's Free Exercise of Religion Act when it uses criminal penalties, including jail time, to force commissioned artists to create custom artwork expressing messages that violate their sincerely held religious beliefs, and when it bans religiously motivated speech? The petition added, their Christian beliefs forbid them from creating custom artwork that conveys messages condoning, supporting, or participating in activities or ideas that violate their religious beliefs. For example, they cannot create artwork expressing messages that contradict biblical truth, demean others, endorse racism, or incite violence. Well, are you going to fight them for not wanting to demean others? Are you going to fight them for not wanting to endorse racism? Are you going to fight them for not wanting to incite violence? Of course not. That's what the left basically has in their tenets, right? As far as what they promote and everything. But to contradict biblical truth is where it all falls apart for the left, right? Because you can't go based on that. We're not allowed to hold our own religious beliefs, that's for sure. Says the Alliance Defending Freedom senior counsel Jonathan Scruggs stated at the time that the state Supreme Court agreed to hear the case. The government must allow artists to make their own decisions about which messages they will promote. Joanna and Brianna are happy to design custom art for anyone. They simply object to being forced to pour their heart, soul, imagination, and talent into creating messages that violate their conscience. That's exactly what I was talking about before. On Friday, the ADF reported that a group of legislators weighed in favor of the women. Thank God. The Arizona Attorney General, joined by other states, numerous state lawmakers, various scholars, and a diverse array of business, artistic, and faith-based groups, have filed friend of the court briefs with the Arizona Supreme Court in support of preserving artistic and religious freedom. Specifically, the briefs support 2 Phoenix artists who face jail time and fines if they violate a sweeping Phoenix criminal law that forces them to design and create custom artwork expressing messages that violate their core beliefs. So, in regards to this, we see things very differently, right? The people that are going against these women see things as they don't want anyone out there to have a differing point of view or to follow their religious beliefs if somehow, some way, these people happen to be the only artists that they can get in touch with that can do this design work that they want, right? They can't have that. They can't have any differing opinions out there, or they must do a lawsuit and eventually try to shut down the business, kind of like Jack Phillips and everything. I, on the other hand, see this as a win for everyone, including those on the left, right? For example, I'll make it very easy for you. I'll tell you what I support that would go against me, right? If someone were to, in my family, go to a liberal baker and ask for a birthday cake for me, and they said, oh my gosh, Chris is a huge conservative. He really, he's big in in politics and everything. He always talks about me, has his own podcast. I want you to make a cake that has Washington, Lincoln, and Reagan on the face of the cake. It says the Generation Y conservative, congratulations on so many followers, and happy birthday or something like that. If the liberal baker looked at them straight in the eye and said, you know what? I gotta be honest with you. That jives with my political beliefs. I am a liberal, and I don't want to make that cake for you. I'm sorry, but you're welcome to any other cake here. You know, if you want to draw that on yourself. They came to me. I can guarantee you right now that I would not be on this podcast blasting that business and dragging them into court because they wouldn't make a cake for me because of my political belief. I would say, thank you. I would say thank you. I would look at that and say, okay, all right, I am going to make a list of businesses that I am not going to patronize, right, and give my money to. And as far as baking is concerned, there's plenty of bakers in the area here, and if we try them all out and 90% of them choose not to do this because of their political beliefs and everything, that's okay. Thank God for those 10% that I can trust to go to and give my money to. I would even pay more. I would pay a little bit more. I would pay a premium on those bakers because they align with my beliefs even better, okay? And I would seek those individuals out for their services. That's what free market is all about. I don't care. I think you should be able to turn away business for whatever reason you want. Now, a lot of people will say, jump to the most monster conclusion. Oh my gosh, if you would say that, if we actually came out with a policy in this country that anyone can refuse service to anyone for any reason, oh my gosh, we would go back to the 50s and 40s and everything where we wouldn't be serving black people anymore. Give me a break. You're jumping to the worst possible conclusion that you possibly could. How many people today would go and not serve people because of racism? Okay? And if that's the case, I'm guessing, if I were to take a good guess, worst case scenario, 5% of businesses, small businesses, right? 5%. And I think that's blown out of the water as far as I'm concerned. But those 5 businesses, I can guarantee you, won't be around much longer after that, okay? Word would get out that they don't serve that kind of people or anything like that, whether it's women or transgender, LGBT community, minorities, or anything like that. Word gets out on that, their friends, their family, no one's going to be going there anymore. Word's going to get out. It's going to get passed around through word of mouth and everything. That business is going to close down because of free market principles. Thank God for free market capitalism. That's all I got to say. Here's my thing about these two, though, right? These 2 women on this, take the whole religious belief out of everything. That is really what I'm trying to tell you. I think you should be able to deny service for absolutely any reason, okay? But you take these 2 women here, and you take Jack Phillips, I would love to see, I don't have the time for it, but I would love to see someone put together some sort of campaign for us to order things specifically from these people to keep them in business and keep money flowing to them for their lawsuits and everything, for their legal troubles, right? I would love to see a campaign put together for like a 6-inch or smaller cake from Jack Phillips, for him to like mass produce these cakes and send them out all over the country and overprice them, simply so that he has enough for the materials and to make them and ship them and everything, and a little bit on top to go towards his legal fees and everything. I would love to see a little piece of artwork done by these two women. I would love to see it ordered so much from these two women. What's the name of their group again here? Brush and Nib Studio in Phoenix, Arizona. I would love to see them get so many orders at Brush and Nib Studio that they have to hire 5 more artists, maybe 50 more artists. I don't care. Enough that they get enough money on top too to go towards their lawsuits. And that right there is another free market capitalism, God love our country type of thing that I would support. God bless. All right. Kind of going along the same thing here. We were in the religious category basically there, but now over to the LGBT portion of that. This is according to Louder with Crowder's website. A transgender wins the Women's Cycling World Championship. One of the up-and-coming trends on the left is trannies getting a stranglehold on sports. Gender-bending guys beating the bejesus out of the ladies in the MMA. Transitioning girls on the juice competing against girls not on roids. All in today's work for loopy leftists. Now there's guys lapping the ladies in world championship bike races. So this is according to... It was linked to from the Daily Caller and everything. It says a biological male who identifies as a transgender woman won a women's world championship cycling event on Sunday. Rachel McKinnon, a professor at the College of Charleston, won the women's 35 to 39 age bracket at the 2018 UCI Masters Track Cycling World Championships in Los Angeles. McKinnon celebrated the victory on Twitter, writing, "First transgender woman world champion ever. We cannot have a woman legally recognized as a trans woman in society and not be recognized that way in sports," McKinnon told USA Today. "Focusing on performance advantages is largely irrelevant because this is a rights issue. We shouldn't be worried about trans people taking over the Olympics. We should be worried about their fairness and human rights instead." Yeah, fairness. So, let's talk about fairness here for a second, okay? What we have in regards to transgender in sports is ridiculous, okay? I know it's hard to understand for people that support this community and everything, that men and women are different. I know that's a horrible thing to say in today's society, that men and women are built differently. But guess what? Bone density, men have more, okay? Mass. Men have more mass to them and everything, which is why that woman, transgender woman in the MMA, when she punched a female in the head, cracked and fractured the woman's skull. And she's winning everything because she's dominating. Because it's a man's body pounding these women, professional, strong women, into oblivion, okay? It's not fair, if that's what we're talking about here with fairness. In regards to this, there's more muscle mass with the cycling and everything. I'm not saying that every man can beat a woman in cycling. I certainly can't. I haven't ridden a bike in a while. But, you know, I really don't know what the answer is to this, because this is something that keeps on coming up. We see sport after sport, from running to boxing and the MMA stuff to now cycling and everything. And, you know, at what point do we get to, right? Feminists have actually shown that they're pissed off at transgender women being represented in feminist communities because they're not actually women, and they could enjoy the full benefits of being a male in a patriarchy society and everything. Like, they're just pissed off about all that stuff. And now we have, you know, Caitlyn Jenner winning Woman of the Year a couple years ago, and it's just showing that men can do women better than women can do women, basically. This is what I've been saying for quite a while now. And all these stories kind of back that up, and it's ridiculous. At some point, like, what do? Do we have a men's sports, women's sports, and transgender sports? Transgender each way, because even when you split those, you can't combine those because it's still a mismatch as far as the body chemistry and everything. It's a really bad place, because I don't want to deny someone's ability to compete in sports, especially if they are an athlete, which these people are, right? They wouldn't be competing in these sports if they at the top levels if they weren't top level athletes. The problem is a top level transgender woman, in this case in cycling, may be the lowest level person on a men's team in cycling on the other end. So are they taking advantage of the situation and dominating a sport when they should be somewhere else because of the characteristics and body makeup that they have? I don't know. I really don't know what the answer to this is. And I think society, despite people thinking that it's bigotry and hateful towards what people want to do with their own bodies, which I don't really care what you do, I think it's just society being confused on how to keep up with this and how to categorize people for the fairness portion that they're advocating for in this case. I mean, how the heck do you do that? I don't know. I think that's going to be one of the biggest upcoming fights that we have when it comes to trying to figure all this out together, you know? Okay, so we're at the midpoint of our conversation for tonight, I believe, and we're going to go to Relic Hunter Firearms for our Spotlight of the Week. Remember, while you're watching this, if you are interested in the firearm that we are spotlighting this week, you can always head into the Relic Hunter Firing Line dealership and talk to Gerard and his staff and say that you are interested in this gun, and you will get a discount on that particular firearm if you mention that you saw this on the Generation Y Conservative podcast. Whether you're a follower or not, I would actually hope that you do follow along, because if you're buying a firearm, hey, we offer more discounts on those firearms in the future too, because we're getting ready to shoot some more videos. So in the meantime, let's take a look at this week's featured firearm, which was probably my favorite to shoot while I was there. We did 4 videos that day. The first was the 6-hour MPX. We did the Glock 19X. We did what we're showing tonight, which is the FN57, which fires a rifle round, basically. It's pretty badass. And then next podcast, we're going to actually take a look at a semi-automatic shotgun, which is pretty BA as well. So here is the FN57.
Hi, I'm Gerard Stetzelberger, Relic Hunter Firing Line. 4671 Egypt Road, Copley, PA. We're located north on 145. You can locate us on the internet at www.relichunter.com or find us on Facebook at Relic Hunter Firing Line. Hi, this is Gerard with Relic Hunter Firing Line. Today, we're going to look at and shoot the FN57. Made by FN Herstel in Belgium, this pistol has a 20-round magazine and shoots the most awesome little round called the 5.7 by 28. It's a miniature rifle bullet. You can see that. It is very lightweight. This pistol has a safety that is not in the normal traditional position. It's forward above the trigger guard. It has adjustable sights. And this pistol can shoot flat and hit something at least at 100 yards. In the past, Congress has tried to ban this pistol because the ammunition has a velocity that is so powerful and fast that it has the ability to pierce armor vests.
All right, Gerard, what do we got today?
Well, Chris, it's time for the FN57. This is the gun that Congress has tried to ban multiple times because of the round that it shoots. Are you ready for this?
Hey, if it's at the top of Congress's list, it's at the top of my list too. Different
Amen,
type of
brother.
list though.
All right. Chris, be my guest. The 5.7 is so light and so little recoil, and you've got 20 rounds in it. It's a very powerful bullet for the size of it, and you know, just what you're getting out of it pressure-wise, I think it's an awesome gun.
Yeah.
Fun to shoot. Can I say that?
Oh yeah,
it
absolutely. Hold that side real quick. So we had a couple go off here, but so far all three guns that we've shot were on the body. Like
absolutely.
These are really good guns for self-defense. Very accurate.
Absolutely.
And yeah, we definitely had our cluster up here, a couple in the neck. That's okay. That'll put them down too. Very
awesome.
easily. Actually, I don't know why they don't put an orange area there, because that'll take you out real good.
That's the connector.
So yeah, we had some. It was a good cluster up there, and for me personally, it was a really fun firearm to shoot. And like you said, again, kind of like with the other gun, very little recoil.
Yeah.
And it was just fun.
Hey Chris, Gerard here from Relic Hunter Firing Line. We are big supporters of the Second Amendment, and with the responsibility of firearms ownership comes training. And we focus on training here at Relic Hunter Firing Line. Because of that, I'd like to introduce Maureen Jory, our head trainer.
Hi, I'm Maureen Jory. Everybody calls me Mo. I'm the NRA Basic Pistol Instructor here at Relic Hunter Firing Line, and I am able to give you a 10-minute lesson if you need just a refresher class, a half-hour lesson, an hour lesson. I can do group lessons. We do classes here, including a new shooter class where you can just get your feet wet, or NRA Basic Pistol class, which comes with the certification. We have a fun ladies' night going, we have a gun cleaning class, and a move and shoot tactical class. So there's a class for every person out there, whether you're a beginner or an expert shooter and just need a refresher class. Here at Relic Hunter Firing Line, we like to have the responsible gun owner understand how to use their firearm safely, accurately, and morally. Everything we teach revolves around those three things.
Okay, the FN57 was, like I said, my favorite firearm to shoot while I was there. I actually brought this up with a military buddy of mine and showed him it, and he said, oh yeah, I know what the FN57 is. He said that is what you would want to shoot at the guy robbing your neighbor's house that's hiding behind the refrigerator, and you shoot from your house. So the bullet, like Gerard said, was high velocity basically, and actually penetrates body armor, which is why Congress tried to have it banned as a firearm. They haven't been able to do it yet, so because of that, you are now able, as a Generation Y conservative follower, to go into Relic Hunter Firing Line in Copley, Pennsylvania, ask for Gerard or any of his staff and tell them that you saw the FN57 on the Generation Y Conservative podcast and receive a discount. Now, that won't last very long. I think it is until shortly into the new year, so I would get out there as soon as possible. You know, a lot of people are coming off of Christmas with a little extra money in their pocket, so they may be interested in actually going in for that. Remember, I believe the discounts are still available for the 6-hour MPX, the Glock 19X, and now the FN57. Next podcast, we will be showing off a semi-automatic shotgun with crazy 16 capacity for shells and a really remarkable tube system. Is actually a pretty fun shotgun to shoot, so we'll be seeing that on the next podcast. So now that we've gone through the Relic Hunter video, we're actually going to start discussing more into the politics realm, and What we have here, we're going to go over to Ohio, our neighboring state right now, and it says Ohio Governor John Kasich vetoes the pro-life heartbeat bill. John Kasich, the guy, the little slug leech that stayed in the primaries until the very end to screw over Ted Cruz. Not that I'm actually too sorry right now, because I am pretty happy with Trump, even though I was very much against him in the primaries. But John Kasich is the type of guy that loves to ruin anything in regards to republicanism or conservatism. It says here, Ohio Governor John Kasich has vetoed the Ohio heartbeat bill, which would have banned abortion once a fetal heartbeat could be detected. This is the second time Kasich has vetoed a heartbeat bill, the first being 2 years ago. The beating of a heart is widely regarded as a sign of life. I wonder why. And a preborn child's heart begins beating at 22 days. When Roe v. Wade was decided almost 46 years ago, the technology to view ultrasounds and discern heartbeats was not widely available. The Supreme Court presented multiple comments on the ongoing historical debate about when life begins. Even as it released its landmark decision. However, in a statement regarding the heartbeat bill veto, which took place on December 21st, Merry Christmas, right? To Republicans. Thank you very much, Kasich. Kasich explained that he thought the bill was contrary to the Supreme Court of the United States' current rulings on abortion. It is because of this that he envisioned a lawsuit against Ohio during which the law would be struck down as unconstitutional, and the state would then have to pay hundreds of thousands of taxpayer dollars to cover the legal fees for the pro-choice activist lawyers. So this is John Kasich, who is an a-hole as far as I'm concerned. He's one of the worst as far as Republicans. I was about to say right up there with Lindsey Graham, but Lindsey Graham has at least come around and been awesome under the Trump presidency. He's actually a killer out there right now. He's a killer. But John Kasich, I don't get it. I know people like him for playing the middle of the road and everything, but he has the worst decisions. So he's upset here about spending hundreds of thousands of dollars of taxpayer dollars on fighting a case of abortion. I don't know. Personally, I think that spending money, taxpayer money, even on trying to fight the Supreme Court on at least taking another look at when life begins and having that discussion is worth it to save millions of lives. And that's no exaggeration, obviously. We've had, I think it's close to 60 million abortions now since Roe v. Wade. But this is a guy that has a big problem with spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on this in regards to abortion, but has no issue supporting Common Core and spending our money like crazy, or taxpayer money of Ohio, on bad education that leads to failing failing adults, right? People that don't understand math because they're forced into a funnel to have to use the Common Core methodology instead of it being one of the tools in the toolbox for these kids in regards to math. The Common Core is an agenda that goes much further than math as well. It goes into history and everything. We've talked about cases where Common Core has gone into history in the middle school environment where they teach World War II without ever mentioning Hitler's name, right? These are the people that are going around screaming Nazis. No wonder we have so many freaking millennials out there right now that are screaming Nazis about everyone when they can't even find out what Nazis actually are. They don't know the definition of a Nazi because it's not even taught when they learn about World War II, for crying out loud, right? So this is what Common Core is. This is what this messed up education, the Department of Education, has pushed out by a bunch of bureaucrats and never had any educational experience, put together this program that's forced on schools that have to then adopt this mandated educational bar that's set across the country. Otherwise, they're threatened by that their federal funding for the schools will be taken away. And this is exactly why schools can't fight back that well, because if you do fight back and you take away that federal funding, you have to make up for it by raising the taxes of your constituents. Well, the conservative thing to do would be to help students by getting rid of Common Core, but it's anti-conservative then to go to your taxpayers and say, hey, I know you've voted me in because I'm a conservative that's supposed to look out for your taxpayer dollars, but I got to raise your taxes astronomically now because I'm trying to look out for your kid and not have them subjected to the evils of Common Core. Well, it's a tough spot to be in, right? Do you just, as a conservative board member, get elected onto there and hope that eventually the country wakes up and realizes the atrocities of Common Core and they fight the government to take it off of the agenda for public education, right? And hope that eventually it becomes so bad that these kids come home and the parents are like, what the hell are you learning in school? And turns it around? Or do you take an even bigger risk and get rid of Common Core in your school district and have to go to your constituents and ask for an astronomical tax increase? Well, I think we obviously see what's going on in the country, which is the school boards chicken out, or they try to run some sort of scheme around Common Core and label it as something else, like a Pennsylvania state standardized. I don't even know what the heck the school district did when we were doing it for Common Core when I served on the board of directors, but it was basically the administrators of the school district trying to get away with making us playing to the ignorance of some board members that it wasn't Common Core, and they just changed the name. As a matter of fact, specifically with John Kasich, he had said, or maybe that was Mike Huckabee. Oh, it was Mike Huckabee. Those two are one and the same. I'll tell you what. Mike Huckabee actually at one point said, yeah, people don't like Common Core. Well, the best way to fix Common Core is to change its name. To change its name, right? So you're going to continue to beat kids over the head with horrible educational standards and hope that parents forget about it just because you change the name from Common Core, a title that parents have been pissed off at and advocating against the government from using for years now just by changing the name. And that was actually quite a while ago that Mike Huckabee actually suggested that. But this John Kasich that supports Common Core and is against saving children with a heartbeat in the womb is one and the same. It's one and the same. It's two horrible sides of the same stupid coin, right? John Kasich is not a Republican. He's hardly a slightly left of center Democrat. This guy is pretty darn close to the Obama standards of being a Democrat, right? Which is way left. I hope Ohio wakes up. Honestly, I do. I think John Kasich is horrible for not only the state of Ohio, but because of the wider implications of what he can do and his influence spread as a governor out there and everything to any other states in the country, especially when he runs for president. And I really pray that he does not run for president again. And if you want to fight me on that, that's fine. I will tell you right now, as an ideological argument, John Kasich is the worst when it comes to Republicans. Okay, while we're talking about government waste, as in John Kasich is a waste of government, this is according to The Blaze and Rand Paul. So let's go from someone like Rand Paul, someone like John Kasich, who is someone that we shouldn't be looking to for advice on policies, to someone that, by golly, should have had shot after shot for leadership roles for turning this country around in the right direction. It's just that he hasn't, the Pauls don't have the personality for the libertarian movement to move forward in leadership roles. What they do have is the smarts behind them. They have the intelligence to label and identify and label the horrible parts of government and what we need to be paying attention to. They're the only ones that keep on bringing it up, for crying out loud. And no one pays attention to them because they're very vanilla. They're very bland in their presentation. But my word, they are always right with things. So this is the headline article to this. It says a report, government wasted $114 million studying quails on cocaine, daydreaming, Prince Harry opera, and other projects. Okay, so let's go into it. According to Paul, part of the nation's debt problem relates to frivolous spending. Geez, where have we heard that before? Some of the top ticket items included in his report include payments of more than $76 million in stipends to soldiers in the Somali National Army, which, if you've heard of pirates over in Somalia area that take over tourist boats and cruise lines and everything, that's these people. So we gave $76 million to them. Let's see, $650,000 to develop a drama series to air in Afghanistan, where most of them don't have TVs. As much as $1 million to help support and develop the legislative process in Libya. And $18 million for tourism in Egypt, where they hate Americans and Westerners. Fantastic. The total of $114 million that was spent on the projects could have paid for nearly 1,000 miles of paved roads, 800 small business administration startup loans, or more than 2 months of NASA aeronautics. So let's see some of these other ones here. How about $13.4 million promoted to the already overcrowded farmers market industry. $250,000 to teach Rwandan special interest groups and citizens how to lobby. How about $15,000 used in theater to combat homelessness and poverty? Used theater to combat homelessness and poverty. So $15,000 for homelessness and poverty, you can get me on that. I would consider more. But to use theater for it, if that's what they're saying there, that's screwed up. How about $874,503 to study the sexual habits of quails on cocaine? Listen, I'll pay a couple bucks to see it, but I'm not gonna advocate for over $800,000 from taxpayer money being spent on it. $15,000 funded a fictionalized opera about Prince Harry. Listen, there's a reason why we escaped from the king's rule or queen's rule and everything came over here. We don't need theater to fictionalize them over here in an opera. $75,000 to make videos marketing U.S. colleges to Indian students. I get where they're going on that. I'll be honest with you. $75,000 to blow leaf blowers at lizards. That doesn't make any sense. $1 million to support legislative priorities in Libya. $200,000 to put on plays in Afghanistan. $361,000 to study horse and donkey hunting on the ancient Anatolian Peninsula. $18 million for Egyptian tourism, like we talked about. $200,000 to bring British student social activists to the United States. Great. We have enough stupid activists here as it is already that don't know what the hell they're talking about. We don't need British ones, too, that are coming over here with an ideology that we fought against and won to get our own freaking country. How about $35,000 to encourage people in the Republic of the Congo to use local resources? Almost $2.5 million to study daydreaming. $50,000 to conceptualize games in India. $50,000 to pay for museum trips in Bosnia and Herzegovina for those people. $653,000 to develop a Pashto language TV drama series for Afghanistan. $50,000 to teach female entrepreneurs in India how to vlog. And $400,000 to support asset seizure programs in Paraguay. Like, we don't have an asset seizure problem in this country. We're funding it in Paraguay, for crying out loud. So just that alone adds up to a wasted $114.5 million, okay, right there in total taxpayer money. So when conservatives talk to you about how we shouldn't be raising taxes to support social welfare programs, that we're wasting money as it is already, there's $114 million right now that's right there in those programs that we don't need, that we can allocate out of those programs and put towards the social welfare programs that you want already. And I can guarantee you there's a heck of a lot more money that's being wasted on other things as well that we can reallocate. Honestly, if we wanted to do social welfare programs that I disagree with and put money towards them, if we would at least cut down all the frivolous spending and chop off a low percentage from all the departments of the government, of government-run departments, 5% maybe, 3% off the top of everything, including the military. I would hate to say it, but if we could get back to an actual balanced budget where we actually do these things and have a surplus in our government, which is unheard of except for at the state level, thank you, Texas, then maybe we can get to a portion or a time when social welfare programs that are needed and targeted towards those people in a very specific way that supports them. Maybe we get to that point, and I'm okay with that then. But why spend money on these programs when we're wasting money elsewhere and spending frivolously on a bunch of other crap that we don't need in this country? Doesn't make sense. According to CNBC, Defense Secretary James Mattis is quitting because he doesn't agree with Trump. This is probably the most upsetting story that I saw over the last 2 weeks. Says Defense Secretary James Mattis will step down at the end of February, telling President Donald Trump in a letter that he has, quote, a right to have a Secretary of Defense whose views are better aligned with yours. Mattis served as Trump's Secretary of Defense since the start of the Trump administration. General Mattis was a great help to me in getting allies and other countries to pay their share of military obligations, Trump said. Now, the follow-up to this article is that Trump actually fired Secretary James Mattis and didn't want to wait until February. Why serve out another 2.5 months, essentially, when you don't agree with the president's policies anyway? James Mattis is obviously hated by the left because of his notoriously awesome skills of being a military leader and everything. They called him Mad Dog and all that, and it was fantastic. So it's a real loss to the Trump administration, and if you could just get in there to hear exactly what these reasons were, I would love to hear what the actual reasons are behind the scene, because this is pretty upsetting to most of us on the right. How about this? Speaking of the military and everything, Trump slams CNN and the fake news universe for criticizing his signing of MAGA hats on surprise tour of Iraq and denies he supplied them to the brave young troops. So here's what happened. A couple news programs, including, I believe it was CNN and NBC, and a couple other liberal rags and everything, busted on Trump for not visiting the troops in the Middle East on Christmas like previous presidents had done in the past. What they didn't realize is while they were shooting off their mouths and spreading fake news, literally in this case, Trump and his wife were over there going and visiting with the military over the Christmas holiday. To top that off, while they falsely accused him of not visiting the troops when he actually was, what they didn't realize is that the darling of the press, Michelle Obama, as a first lady, had never visited the troops. And in this case, Melania was with Trump visiting the troops with this. So the Trumps themselves did more visiting to the troops than the Obamas did, as a family, at least. Now, obviously, we'll see how much more he does in the future with our troops. I mean, he does have, 6 more years to go, right? Liberals. That will drive him nuts. One of the big things going on right now has obviously been the government shutdown. in regards to the wall. Now, what was really interesting about that is it seemed like Trump had the balls to stand up to Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer in the White House Oval Office and say, listen, we are not going to approve a budget unless in that budget you are going to allow for the building of this wall. And they fought him on that because now they have a little bit of cojones back to them now that the Democrats have assumed control over the House again coming up in January within the next couple weeks here, that they have a majority in the House, and they think that they're going to have that much more power and take on Trump with this agenda to get him out of office and ruin everything that he was elected for, right? But the fact of the matter is that the people put him in office specifically on multiple agenda items that he promised, the biggest of which was building a wall on our southern border to stop the flood of illegal immigrants that were coming in and abusing our immigration system, most of which are legal immigrants in this country, are also pissed off at. I would say a majority of them are pissed off at the situation going on with those illegally entering and taking advantage of our economic and welfare system. In this case, what happened was Trump stood up to them in the Oval Office, pissed them off pretty good as well. They went out, they did a press conference afterwards, and then suddenly over the last week, the Congress was pushing through a budget that didn't include a wall, and Trump was going to sign it. And that sent an uproar through the community on the right saying, you know, you made promises based on us getting you elected to build this. It was one of your biggest things. You've gone off and checked off your list, unlike any other politician before you in the president's office, and checked off things that you said you were going to do, and you did it. Now, one of the most important items that you promised you're not going to do, what the heck is up with that? To which Trump actually replied and came right back out and said, you know what? No, there's going to be no budget without a wall being included like I demanded. And he said in the office, in the Oval Office with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, if you want to blame a government shutdown on me because I'm asking for a wall, then you can blame it on me. I will take responsibility for that. And we've been in the government shutdown, partial government shutdown, since Friday. What does that mean? I don't know. I haven't seen any difference in my daily activity, that's for sure. I was actually having this conversation with my wife that it's always a tough spot to be put in as a conservative, because as a conservative or libertarian, you're arguing for a smaller government, right? Less people running the government, for less things that the government does in intruding into the citizens' lives. So when you talk about a government shutdown, I'm okay with a government shutdown, right? Because a government not doing anything is better than a government doing the wrong things, which is typically what they do when they do anything, okay? So a partial government shutdown, people not getting paid. So here's the thing. If you're happy about that, you're an evil person, because there's citizens out there that work for the federal government that aren't getting paid. How could you? How could you be so happy about people not getting paid? No. For me, I would like less people being employed by the federal government and actually out there in the public sector being paid to do those jobs, okay? I am okay in this case because a government shutdown, those federal employees that are typically filling spots for a bloated government that are jobs that shouldn't exist for the most part anyway. I'm not talking about the essential jobs. There's certainly essential jobs in the government, as I started this podcast with. But honestly, you know, there comes a time when you got to face the facts. We have a bloated government. There's too much spending. We're in a debt and deficit. And there's a lot of frivolous crap, as Rand Paul pointed out, that we're spending on. And the people elected President Trump to build a wall, among other policy items. And we are going to push for this. And I don't think that Trump is going to take a big political hit if he sticks to his guns and holds it out. The people that end up losing in this situation are the Democrats, especially those in the House that are coming up, right? That are going to be assuming their offices and everything, because they're holding out. They are the reason that the government is shut down, because they are disagreeing with the president and the majority of people that put him in office that want a border wall built. This is our taxpayer money going towards this, okay? You know, when the government tells you that they are doing something for you, it's a load of horse crap as far as I'm concerned, okay? The government never does anything for the people, okay? They never give anything for the people is what I'm trying to say, because what they give is only backed by our hard-earned money going in taxes to them to give back to us in some sort of way. They're not giving us anything. We are giving ourselves something, and in most cases, when the government hands it right back to us in a form that we necessarily probably don't even agree with, right? So if you're ever in a debate with someone that's on the left and they say that the government does so much for people, here's what I would do. I would take a second person. I would say, okay, here's what I want you to do. You, the person on the left, take out your wallet right now and give me your money for a second, because I want to show you an example. Take their money and then give it to someone else that's nearby you, and then say to that person in front of the leftist, look how much I just helped you. They're going to stand there bewildered and think, what do you mean you helped them? You just gave them my money. How are you helping them? If anything, that money came from me. Oh, you see how that worked? Because that middleman, being the government, actually providing that service and giving something of monetary value, wasn't actually the one giving it. It was the original person whose wallet it came from. And that's the way you need to simply look at leftist policies. They are taking money from us to give back to us in ways that we don't even want it. What we need to demand is from President Trump to stick to his guns on the wall and actually demand that the wall is included in this budget, and that the Democrats move forward with the whole thing, with the budget with the wall in it, and take this government shutdown off the table, because this is what the people want. This is why the people put them into office. So speaking of the wall, if you didn't see this over the past couple 2 weeks, I think it was, there was a GoFundMe set up, GoFundMe campaign to build Trump's wall, and it soared to $7 million in just 4 days after a triple amputee veteran ramps up a campaign for $1 billion. Let me see if I can find this. Okay, so this was an old article. So he was at 4 days into it at $7 million. Right now, it's at $17.7 million in GoFundMe supporters. And that's fantastic. That's so good. So yeah, there's people donating. I'm seeing as low as $5, $100, $50, $25. So imagine how many, if that's the case. So let's take that apart for 1 second here, okay? I don't know if I can come up with this real quick. Let me see here. Let's get a calculator here. Okay, so if we have 17,692,085, the largest number I'm seeing right now on the recent donations is $100. Divide that by 100, and you have at least, if everyone was donating the max of $100, which it's not, you have at least 176,920 people donating to this wall right now at $100. And that's not even the case. I'm seeing $5 and $20 in here, and $10 as well. So imagine how many people are supporting this right now. Just goes to show you how much the people actually want a wall. That's how many people are out there. And that may not sound like much, but imagine how many people haven't even heard about this yet. So it says a GoFundMe page titled "We the People Will Fund the Wall" was created on Sunday. I think it was 2 Sundays ago. In 4 days, it has already raised over $7 million of its $1 billion goal. On Thursday, the crowdfunding page stated donations could be sent via check. Liberals trolled the campaign while conservatives are furious it is even needed. That's true. comes as Trump gave up on demand for the $5 billion in wall money from Congress. That's not true. He's back on it now. Meanwhile, the U.S. announced $10.6 billion aid package for Mexico and Central America. That was the real kick to the nuts right there. Not only when he backed off of the wall did he back off the wall, but then we were also giving $10.6 billion in aid to Mexico and Central America that are allowing these people to walk right through and right up into our country illegally, not doing a damn thing to stop it. Hell no. We should be demanding that money from them. Purple Heart recipient Brian Colfage, who's 37 years old, created the campaign and said, "It's up to Americans to help out and pitch in to get this project rolling." The Florida father of two lost both legs and an arm in 2004 in an insurgent attack in Iraq. So this is an American hero here who is now using GoFundMe to help out with funding the wall, which is awesome. I saw a recent article, I think it was, BuzzFeed, put together an article digging apart this guy based on accusations in the past of some sort of lawsuit that isn't even confirmed to try and tear down a veteran that lost his legs and arm in serving our country for baseless accusations against him just because they disagree with his policies. That is what the left has become. Talk about bullying. Again, the left is a bunch of coward bullies, okay, and a bunch of pansies as far as I'm concerned. This guy gave too much for his country, and now he's trying to gather a country up and rally them together to pay for something that was promised to us from the get-go anyway with the Trump administration. So good for him. Let's see here. So that was the other day, on December 20th, right before Christmas, as a Christmas present to us. This was one of the articles that was released on Unbiased America. It says, breaking news, President Trump says he will not sign a short-term bill to keep government open unless it includes funding for the border wall. So that was the turnaround on it. Says the government shutdown will last into 2019 after the Senate sat for just 4 minutes and won't be back at work until next Wednesday. And this was an article that was actually released today. So they sat down for 4 minutes and couldn't come to an agreement because probably common sense language and actual policy talk went right over their heads. It says the Senate gavelled out of the session until next week. House members were told no votes this week. That means the government shutdown will last until next year. The Senate was in session for 4 minutes on Thursday. The likelihood of the government reopening before the new Congress gavels into session on January 3rd is slim. Both sides seem stuck with little signs of movement. President Trump is doubling down on the $5 billion for his border wall, and Democrats show no sign of giving more than the $1.3 billion that they offered. So, to their credit, they are offering something, but it's not what the people want, as I mentioned before. So here's a kind of cool thing to follow up to that. This is according to the Daily Mail. It says Trump plans to attend a Texas groundbreaking ceremony as he claims Homeland Security has issued a contract to build 115 miles of his wall. President Trump announced he will go to Texas in January for a groundbreaking ceremony to start construction of his border wall. He said, I'm going there at the end of January for the start of the construction. He also announced a contract was in place to build 115 miles of his wall, which is a fantastic start, but not enough. No further details were offered. Earlier this year, Customs and Border Protection awarded contracts to build 14 miles of border wall in Texas, with construction to start in February. So I think there's two stories here tonight that we actually went over that tie into each other, and that being the border wall and what was the other one? I forget what the other one was, but what it comes down to is the idea that people on the left don't ask when they're defending a certain group of people if that's what they actually want, right? Okay, so it ties in with the government shutdown. That's what I was trying to get at. I heard multiple people call in that work for the government to radio shows that said, you know what? I get it. if it takes a couple months for us to be on a government shutdown when we get back pay eventually and everything, that Trump gets his wall, I and multiple people in the federal government that are employees actually support the president in this venture, right? But what would your average leftist say about the government shutdown? This is all Trump's fault. How dare you? There's people in the government that aren't getting paid right now and everything. Did they ask anyone that works for the federal government? Did they ask what their opinion is? No. They just assume the caretaker position, defender position of these people without ever being told to or asking if they should, right? Same thing goes for the border wall. Does the left ever consider asking, in this case, let's talk about legal immigrants. Have they ever asked any legal immigrants that came into this country the proper way, that fought for years to get citizenship into this country, went through every step that they had to, sometimes having to backtrack because they did things wrong and taking even longer to get through the process to come here legally to harness the American dream and not take advantage of it through backdoor programs and everything else that is through illegal means. Have they asked those people if they agree with what's going on with the border situation, the wall, and the illegal immigrants and everything? My guess is that the majority have not, and they are assuming the caretaker defender position of these people without actually being told to or without asking. And instead, they're reading stories on Newsweek and CNN and BuzzFeed and everything else about these women and children that are being denied asylum and everything without actually doing any research into what claiming asylum is, without asking deeper questions of where they're coming from, right? These are the same people that got pissed off at Trump when he said that these people are coming from the S word, but crap hole countries, right? They got pissed off that he allegedly said that in a meeting. How dare he say that about Haiti or something like that, where these people are coming from, that they're crap holes? How dare he say that about these beautiful countries? Well, why the heck are they coming here? If these are such beautiful, great, fantastic economical countries that these people are leaving, why would they leave such great countries and come here? And taking that a step further, why would they be claiming asylum from these countries if it wasn't a distress situation? If you're claiming asylum, my guess is you're going to label the country that you're coming from as a crap hole country, okay? So that would only make sense that you would actually be talking about how they're crap hole countries. But these are the same people that won't do the research and to see that when you're leaving somewhere in Central America and you're going through all these different countries on the way up and you keep on passing all these embassies, U.S. embassies in all these countries where you can actually go through the same process and claim asylum and be legally put into the United States at any given point, all the way up until the Mexico border with the United States, with any of the checkpoints going along the whole border, and claim asylum at any of those, why the hell would they choose to enter the country illegally then, right? But you still get support on the left. You still get these people like some of my liberal friends on Facebook that go, oh, well, these people are just trying to claim asylum. They're trying to do things the right way, but we have President Trump blocking them at the border. That's not true. They are bypassing every legal means to do the illegal thing. And why would we want people in our country that choose to do the illegal thing, which by all means becomes harder than doing the legal thing, right? If they only had to walk 50 miles to get to a U.S. embassy in any other country that was closer to theirs to seek asylum, isn't that easier than walking thousands of miles and paying and going through the process and climbing over a wall and taking the risk of being shot or anything else, or anything that the liberal left talks about? Isn't it a heck of a lot easier to go to that first U.S. embassy than go past every single one and do things the illegal way? But the leftists won't ask those questions of themselves because they refuse to look into it, because they refuse to acknowledge that their way of looking at the humanitarian method is wrong, that they're assuming the best of these individuals that are choosing to do the illegal thing instead of the legal way, right? At no point in time will you ever find someone on the right talking about how the legal immigrants are doing the wrong thing. We need to welcome legal immigrants into this country, people that want to harness that American dream and contribute to our society and become good members of our society that do great things, whether that's being doctors or nurses, engineers. We talked about the plans for the funding from our own government of taxpayer money for basically recruiting Indian students and everything. Well, there's a reason for that. Those are hard workers. They're very smart people. Those are the types of people that we should be welcoming into our country and everything. But why then would you compare them to people that choose to do things illegally? You're not being a humanitarian. You're being someone that's turning off your brain, not thinking, and trying to do the opposite of what the president is doing because you hate him. And that's it. You hate that mentality. You hate him, you hate the man, you hate everything he stands for because you refuse to take a look at your own party and see the hypocritical nature of how you can compare everything he does to presidents like Bill Clinton and Barack Obama in regards to wars and all these other policies with the illegal immigrants and everything else, that they were doing the same damn thing all these years for the past couple decades now, and it's only wrong now under this new president because, oh, the news networks have turned you on to it. Well, there's a reason why we say that the fake news is fake news and that there are a bunch of media bias out there, because they're not covering it. And that's not the news organization's fault necessarily 100%. It's your fault for not paying attention. You should be paying attention to everything. You should be digging deeper all the time, not just when the opposition party is in power. That's my rant. I don't really know what else to say, because it just drives me absolutely insane when the left is so hypocritical and refuses to look at common sense and fights for people that don't deserve a fight. Fight for the people that are doing things the legal way. Fight for the people that want to be here because they want to be a part of society, not enter illegally, continue to do illegal things, and take advantage of our society's policies. That's my final word for tonight. Thanks for joining in for the Generation Y Conservative Podcast. I'm glad that you joined me. Again, if you're watching on Facebook Live right now, head over to the Generation Y Conservative page, hit like, and get notifications so that you know when we go live. Some people get their notifications on their smartwatches, which is kind of cool. I like that. Also, when you get notifications, certainly click on that button, but then also share content all the time too, because any story that you see me post and comment on is probably typically a story that I'm going to be talking about in the podcast. If there's anything that you want me to talk about in the podcast, let me know in the comments on there too. There were a couple this week that I omitted, even though they were popular because of time frame and everything. Hopefully we'll have Mike back as my co-host. We're going to rearrange the studio here a little bit, table-wise and everything. I set something up. If you're interested in following along on Twitter, you can always follow at Gen Y Conservative without the E on the end. Check that out, because there's a gun contest right now that I sent a link out to where you can actually win the 6-hour MPX that we reviewed the other week, which is really cool. Don't forget, by the way, in regards to firearms, that this week's Relic Hunter Firing Line spotlighted firearm was the FN57. Freaking awesome gun, sidearm. It's great for personal defense and personal defense of you inside your house for your neighbor as well if they're getting robbed. So you can always go into Relic Hunter Firing Line and ask for a discount on that if you're a Generation Y Conservative follower. You can also go to the Generation Y Conservative YouTube page where you can check out those gun review spotlights, as well as a podcast and movie reviews as well. We'll add some more things there as well. If you're interested in listening to the Generation Y Conservative audio portion of the podcast only, and you don't want to look at this beautiful face or my awesome t-shirts or this fantastic background that I painted, you can always go to the radio station, internet radio station, KLRN Internet Radio on Sundays from 3 to 6 p.m. is typically when this broadcast is rebroadcast out there. And then on Mondays, they move it over to iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Spreaker, and a bunch of other platforms as well. So if you subscribe to podcasts on any of those, or you search for the Generation Y Conservative, certainly hit subscribe and share with friends and family and everything. In the meantime, I'm glad that you were with me tonight, and I hope you had a good time. Have a great night, and God bless America.